This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hi, Alyssa Orange. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. That was awesome. Nice little change of pace there. I loved it.
Yeah. I usually like when the band plays it exactly the way that I hear it on the album, and if that's what it sounds like there. Before we get into Arkansas athletics, Alyssa, we have to have a quiet, short funeral for Florida State's NCAA tournament streak, which ends at 44 years. They won't make the ACC tournament. One more year, and they would have overtaken Miami's streak. But now it's interesting too, because Vanderbilt has the longest streak, and Arkansas goes in to play them. So Florida State baseball not quite what it had been.
No, they were young, and I watched a lot of those games. Obviously, Link Jarrett took over, coming over from Notre Dame, former Florida State alum, and had success at Notre Dame. They were young, and they were winning games that they lost in the 7th and 8th inning, and I don't know if that's one of the worst things to experience when your team is winning and then they keep losing games in the last 2 innings. It's frustrating, but we'll see what happens. It's okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
the Dodgers are back at the top.
See, I told you. April's all a smokescreen. April is all a smokescreen. The Pirates have come back down to earth. The Cardinals are playing a little bit better. Maybe the Mets at some point will figure out how to win games with all the money that they've spent, but I certainly hope that doesn't happen. But the Dodgers are right where they need to be, and Mookie Betts is a shortstop now. And see, all is right in the world for you.
Yeah. Hey. Speaking of Mookie Betts from Nashville back to Vanderbilt, we've come full circle.
That's right. Well, we'll get into the baseball thing in a moment, but softball is first up for as far as postseason's concerned. I haven't looked in too much to the other three teams of the Fayetteville Regional. How much of a threat is Harvard on Friday?
You know, one of the things that they're going to come in here and try to do is shut down this Arkansas offense that, quite frankly, is still just trying to get back on track. And so, you know, if you're Harvard, you just try to see if you can kind of keep them off balance offensively in the way that you've seen them the past 3 games that they've played. I don't think that Arkansas is going to have any trouble with Harvard. I don't think that this 3-game losing streak turns into 4. But you look at, and speaking of losing streaks, Harvard's the only one who doesn't have one at the moment. They just got done winning the Ivy League championship. But Oregon comes in here on a 4-game losing streak. Notre Dame comes in here on a 3-game losing streak. So if you're Harvard, you might be looking at like, hey, maybe we have some momentum. But I don't think that Arkansas is going to lose to them on Friday.
Do Oregon or Notre Dame look like real threats against Arkansas potentially on a Saturday? I mean, obviously they're in the tournament, so they're threats. But how good are those two teams?
Yeah, Oregon is pretty good as the 2 seed again for the second year in a row in this Fayetteville Regional. You know, they lost to Stanford, who's hosting a regional, and to Utah at the end of the regular season, who's also hosting a regional. They're a pretty good team. Notre Dame, I was honestly surprised to see get into the field. They were on that bubble line heading out of the ACC tournament. They hosted it in South Bend this year. But they were a team that was like, do they get in or do they not? There's a cutoff line with ACC teams, and Notre Dame wasn't a part of it when they were looking at it on Saturday. But they got in, and we were just talking about streaks, Phil. I had no idea that Notre Dame softball had the 3rd longest NCAA tournament streak in the country, active streak in the country. So there's a fun fact for you, too.
These streaks are difficult to keep up, you know, because
yeah.
I mean, look, Arkansas baseball is as consistent, if not more consistent, than just about every program in the country. But they had that one year, 2016, that got in the way of what would be a streak of like 22 years. You know, 1 year ruins a streak, just like one bad game ruins a hitting streak. And you might have a bunch of 1 for 4, 1 for 5 in there, but at least you got a hit. You know, and people will look at just making the tournament as not enough. When you do it over the case of 30 straight years, or in that case for Florida State, 44 consecutive years, they didn't win a national title, but no one will do that, or at least I can't imagine I'm alive to see it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to be able to do that. That's why, you know, you look back and see what Cal Ripken did with his consecutive game streak. It's incredible, like unreal. They're tough, and they're hard to put into perspective if you don't have any.
Dave Van Horn is talking. Well, I thought it was 12:30. It's 12:45. So I'm assuming you'll be in on that Zoom. I'll have to be co-hosting this radio show, and that's going on. So I'm Dave Van Horn for a brief moment here, okay? Alyssa, what question do you want to ask the head baseball coach of Arkansas? I'm not giving you the answer. I just want to know what question you'd ask.
Sure. Well, I want to know about Jared Wegner, and he said yesterday on the Daily that he expects him to play on Thursday, which is exciting. So what does that look like? Is he going to be back in the field? And if you add Jared Wegner, if Jared Wagner's coming back, Coach, and you add him back into the lineup, who do you take out? That's a tough question. We were talking about it in the office yesterday, right? So things are going really well right now. You got Kendall Diggs in right. You got Borfin over in left. And so do you take Kendall Diggs, put him back as the DH, but then McLaughlin's been really productive for you as the DH? What do you do? So I was curious. I'm sure he gets asked that, and I want to know the answer.
It was weird. It's like when the injuries happen, and nobody would look at the injury in any sport and say, well, injuries are a good thing. But it does open up opportunities for other players to show that they belong and that they can play. And that injury to Wegner kind of gave, well, that wasn't the injury that did it. It was Josenberger's injury that gave McLaughlin the chance to, take over designated hitter. And now you feel like you've got a known quantity in Ben McLaughlin, who I think doesn't start any longer and is like a super sub or the first pinch hitter in a big moment. And that's not a starter, but that's a pretty important role for any team in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. To come off the bench and have some firepower, know that this is a guy you can rely on because of what he's done during the regular season when his name was called. That's what you need. And as you're heading into this part of the season, Bill, we know how big depth and how important depth is in the long run. And this isn't a team that just has, 10 really good players and then really young guys with an experience. We have seen that this roster is stacked. And you could easily probably take the backups on this Arkansas team, and they'd start as a full lineup somewhere else. And so that's good to see, and good to see that it's clicking in the right time of the year for the Razorbacks.
Alyssa, I saw a little bit of the NBA draft combine. I saw that, Jordan Walsh showed out, Anthony Black, obviously, and then Nick Smith not really doing anything. Have you heard anything on the NBA draft?
I have not. In terms of, I have seen those numbers.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really funny that they had Anthony Black listed at like 6'5" when he was 6'7" all year long for Arkansas. So I thought that was kind of the funniest takeaway I took away. But I have a feeling that Nick isn't doing much because of that knee still. And he's just there to meet with teams and talk with teams and do all that kind of business work that comes with the combine as opposed to the skills. And we've seen that with football, too. I don't want to read into it much because football players do it as well, as if they're injured and they don't necessarily go through those drills, but they're there to meet teams. And that's just as valuable when you're talking and getting a team to want you. They want to want you as a person and as a player. So I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's denying Nick Smith's talent. I mean, he's uber talented. Yeah. It's about his health. That's the concern.
Yeah.
And Walsh, I think he can play in the NBA. I don't know if it benefits him more to come back a year and so next year I think he would be a first round pick. This year maybe not. But then Anthony Black's probably a top 10.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been saying that really since we didn't know what Jordan Walsh was going to do, that I really think it would benefit him to come back a year. But you're also seeing Musselman build around a roster that doesn't really include him because he obviously has to cover his bases. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm with you. I think he should come back. He could make a lot more money coming out in a year from now.
Alyssa, let me finish with you on the question that we get about it's actually gotten a little bit lesser now. It was at least 2 or 3 times an hour. Now it's down to about once or twice a show.
Okay.
Any update on Ron Holland?
No. And everybody's just seeing to see, is this a strong arm thing by Texas because they know he wants to come to Arkansas and, they could be like, oh, well, he's going to be an SEC opponent and, well, he won't be here by the time you guys join the SEC. Give me a break. I think Texas is just trying to, showboat this thing a little bit and flex their muscles and, quite frankly, being a little annoying. So if they could just let him out of his national letter of intent, that would be great.
Oh, you mean they're being Texas about it? That's what they're...
Yes, that's a great verb. They're being Texas about it.
Can't wait for them to join the SEC. Oh, gosh.
It's going to be fun.
You have to deal with this all the time. Alyssa, appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on. Do it again next week. If you got a show, because who knows, next week we'll be playing baseball. We just don't know the time of the day.
Ooh, that's right.
Let's go baseball. Yeah.
BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.